Leonard came home early that Tuesday. The house was too quiet. Then he heard it, a sound coming from somewhere he didn't expect. He followed it down the hallway, his chest tightening with each step. When he pushed open the kitchen door, he froze. His maid, Tracy, was bent over the sink. And in that sink, surrounded by strange green water, were his twin sons, his babies. She was bathing them. In the kitchen. Like it was the most normal thing in the world. Leonard couldn't breathe, couldn't think. All he could feel was shock, confusion, and something deeper, something that felt like shame. The silence hit Leonard the moment he walked through the door. He'd left work early, something he never did. A meeting got cancelled, and for once, he didn't find another reason to stay away. He just came home. He set his briefcase down, loosened his tie. The house felt wrong, too quiet, no baby sounds, no voices. Then he heard it. Faint, coming from down the hall, water running, a voice he recognized but couldn't place. His heart kicked. He moved toward it, slow, cautious. The sound was coming from the kitchen. He pushed the door open and froze. Tracy, his maid, was standing at the sink. Her sleeves were rolled up, yellow gloves on her hands, and in the basin, surrounded by murky green water, were his sons. Gabriel, Michael, 11 months old, in the sink. Leonard's mind went blank. "What are you doing?" His voice came out raw, almost strangled. Tracy turned, her eyes met his. Calm, steady, like she'd been expecting him. "They have colic, Mr. Walker," she said quietly. "Your night nurse didn't show. This is what worked." Leonard stared. His sons were in a kitchen sink, with green water, and this woman, this stranger, was touching them like it was normal. But then he saw something that made his chest tighten. The way Michael's fingers gripped her wrist, the way Gabriel looked up at her, not scared, not confused, safe. "How long have you been doing this?" Leonard asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Tracy lifted Gabriel out and wrapped him in a towel. She held him close, gentle, practiced. "Every night since I started, Mr. Walker. And you didn't tell me?" She paused, then quietly, "You're not usually here." The words hit him like a fist. Because she was right. Tracy lifted Michael out next and held both boys in her arms. They melted into her. Quiet, loved. She looked at Leonard. "They're okay now, but they need more than this." Leonard couldn't speak, couldn't move. Because in that moment, standing in his own kitchen, he realized something terrifying. This woman knew his sons better than he did, and he had no idea what else he'd missed. Before we continue, hit that subscribe button and like this video. Tell me in the comments where you're watching from, and if someone ever showed up for you when you needed them most. Because this story is about more than Leonard and Tracy. It's about the grace we don't see coming and the love that never gives up. Let's keep going. Leonard didn't sleep that night. He lay in bed staring at the ceiling, replaying the image over and over. Tracy's hands in the water, his sons looking up at her. The calm in her eyes when she said, "You're not usually here." Those words wouldn't leave him. "You're not usually here." He got up just after 5, showered, dressed. By the time he walked into the kitchen, the sun was barely up. Tracy was already there, measuring formula with the kind of precision that looked automatic. She didn't hear him at first. He watched her pour warm water into 2 bottles, test the temperature on her wrist, then set them on the counter. She moved through his kitchen, like it was hers, like she'd done this 1,000 times. Because she had. "Morning, Mr. Walker," she said without turning around. Leonard cleared his throat. "Morning." She glanced at him, then back at the bottles. "Coffee's ready if you want some." He didn't want coffee. He wanted answers, but he didn't know how to ask without sounding like a stranger in his own home. "Tracy," he started, then stopped. She waited, her hands still busy. "How much do you know about my sons?" She paused, set the bottle down. When she looked at him, her face was unreadable. "What do you mean?" "I mean, do you know their schedule? What they like? What makes them cry?" Tracy studied him for a moment. Then, quietly, "Yes, sir, I know." "More than I do?" She didn't answer right away. When she did, her voice was softer, almost sad. "I'm here, Mr. Walker. That's all." Leonard felt something twist in his chest. He wanted to be angry, wanted to tell her she'd overstepped. But how could he? She hadn't done anything wrong. She'd just done everything he should have been doing. From down the hall came a sound, Gabriel, fussing awake. Tracy moved immediately, like instinct, but Leonard stepped forward. "I'll get him." She stopped, looked at him with something he couldn't name. "Surprise? Hope?" "Okay," she said. Leonard walked to the nursery, his heart pounding harder than it should. When he opened the door, Gabriel was standing in his crib, holding the rail, tears on his cheeks. Leonard froze. His son looked at him, really looked, and for a second, Leonard thought Gabriel might cry harder, might reach for someone else. But then Gabriel lifted his arms, and Leonard's throat closed up. He stepped forward, picked him up, held him against his chest. Gabriel was warm, soft, real. "Hey, buddy," Leonard whispered, his voice cracking. "I'm here." Gabriel buried his face in Leonard's shoulder, and for the first time in 7 months, Leonard felt like he was holding his son, not a memory, not a reminder of what he'd lost. Just his son. When he came back to the kitchen, Tracy was feeding Michael. She looked up, saw Leonard with Gabriel, and something flickered across her face. Relief, maybe. Or maybe just grace. Leonard started coming home earlier. Not every day, not at first, but enough that Tracy noticed, enough that the boys started looking toward the door around 6 o'clock, like they were expecting him. It was small, quiet, but it meant something. One evening, Leonard walked in and found Tracy sitting on the floor with the twins. She'd spread a blanket out, and Gabriel was trying to crawl toward a stuffed bear while Michael chewed on a wooden block. Tracy was singing, soft, something Leonard didn't recognize. He stood in the doorway, watching. She hadn't seen him yet. There was something about the way she moved, easy, unhurried, like she had all the time in the world, like the boys were the only thing that mattered. Gabriel tumbled forward and let out a frustrated cry. Tracy scooped him up without missing a beat, kissed his forehead, set him back down. "Try again, baby," she murmured. "You're so close." Leonard cleared his throat. Tracy looked up, startled. "Mr. Walker, I didn't hear you come in." "Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt." She stood, brushing off her knees. "You're not interrupting. They're your sons." The words hung there. Leonard stepped into the room, sat down on the couch. Michael spotted him and made a sound half babble, half laugh. Leonard smiled. "Can I ask you something?" he said. Tracy hesitated, then nodded. "Where did you learn all this? The chamomile water, the routines, all of it?" Her face changed, just slightly, like a door closing. "I just picked it up," she said. "Tracy." She looked at him, really looked. "Please," Leonard said quietly, "I want to know." She sat down on the edge of the blanket, her hands in her lap. For a long moment, she didn't speak. Then, "I was in school, pre-med, Columbia." Leonard blinked. "You were what?" "I wanted to be a pediatrician," she said, her voice steady but distant. "I had a scholarship, full ride. I was 3 credits away from graduating when my mom got sick." Leonard felt his chest tighten. "Al's," Tracy continued. "It came fast. She couldn't work, couldn't pay rent. I dropped out to take care of her, lost the scholarship, lost everything really. Tracy. She died 2 years ago," Tracy said, her voice quiet but not broken. "And by then, I was so far behind I couldn't go back. Too much debt, no way to catch up. So I took work where I could find it." Leonard didn't know what to say. Tracy looked down at Gabriel, who had crawled over to her and was pulling himself up on her knee. "I don't regret it," she said softly. "She needed me. And now, these boys need me too." Leonard watched her lift Gabriel into her lap, watched the way his son settled against her like he belonged there, and he realized something that should have been obvious from the start. Tracy wasn't just good at this. She was called to it. "I'm sorry," Leonard said, "for what you lost." Tracy met his eyes. "I'm sorry too, Mr. Walker, for what you're still losing." The words landed soft, true, and Leonard knew he couldn't keep running anymore. It started with a phone call. Leonard was in a meeting when his phone buzzed. He ignored it. Then it buzzed again, and again. He excused himself, stepped into the hallway, and answered. "Mr. Walker." It was Tracy. Her voice was tight, controlled, but he could hear something underneath fear. "What's wrong?" "It's Gabriel. He's burning up. I've tried everything, but his fever won't break. I think we need to take him to the hospital." Leonard's blood went cold. "I'm on my way." He didn't remember leaving the building, didn't remember the cab ride home. All he could think about was Gabriel, his son, sick, afraid. When he burst through the door, Tracy was in the nursery, holding Gabriel against her chest. The baby was flushed, whimpering softly. Michael was in his crib, crying. "How high?" Leonard asked, breathless. 103.5. I gave him medicine 20 minutes ago, but it's not coming down. Leonard reached for his phone. "I'll call the doctor." "I already did." She said, "If it hits 104, we go to the ER." Leonard looked at Tracy, really looked. Her face was pale, her jaw tight, but her hands were steady. "What do we do?" he asked. And in that moment, something shifted. He wasn't asking as her employer, he was asking as a father who didn't know what to do. Tracy met his eyes. "We keep him cool, we watch him, and we don't panic." Leonard nodded. They worked together. Tracy filled a basin with lukewarm water. Leonard stripped Gabriel down to his diaper. They took turns sponging his skin, whispering to him, keeping him calm. Gabriel cried. Soft, pitiful sounds that broke Leonard's heart. "It's okay, buddy," Leonard whispered, his voice cracking. "Daddy's here. I'm here." Tracy glanced at him. Something flickered in her eyes, something that looked like pride. 20 minutes passed. 30. Gabriel's cries softened, his body relaxed. Tracy checked his temperature again. 102.8, she said quietly. "It's coming down." Leonard exhaled, his whole body sagging with relief. He sat on the floor, his back against the wall, Gabriel cradled in his arms. Tracy sat beside him, Michael now asleep in her lap. For a long time, neither of them spoke. Then Leonard said, "I froze. When you called, I didn't know what to do." "You came," Tracy said simply. "That's what mattered. You knew exactly what to do. I didn't even—" He stopped, shook his head. "I should have known. I should have been the one." "Mr. Walker," Tracy's voice was firm but gentle. "You're learning. That's more than most fathers do." Leonard looked down at Gabriel, now sleeping peacefully in his arms. His son. His fragile, perfect son. "I don't want to be like most fathers," he said quietly. Tracy smiled. "Just a little. Then don't be." And in that quiet moment, sitting on the floor of a nursery with a woman he'd barely noticed 3 weeks ago, Leonard made a choice. He wasn't going to run anymore. Whatever it took, he was going to show up. Leonard started noticing things he'd never seen before. The way Tracy hummed when she folded laundry, the way she always checked the window before putting the boys down for their nap, making sure the sun wasn't too bright, the way she kept a small notebook in her apron pocket, writing down every time they ate, every time they cried, every small change. She was documenting their lives, and he'd never even asked to see it. One afternoon, he found her in the kitchen, staring at her phone. Her face was tight, worried. "Everything okay?" he asked. She looked up, startled, and quickly put the phone away. "Yes, sir, fine." But it wasn't fine. He could see it in her eyes. "Tracy." She hesitated, then quietly, "It's nothing, just bills." Leonard frowned. Do you need—" "I'm fine, Mr. Walker." Her voice was polite. Final. A wall going up. He wanted to push, wanted to ask how much she was making, how much she owed, if $18 an hour was even enough to live on in this city. But he didn't. Because asking meant admitting he'd never thought about it before. That evening, after the boys were asleep, Leonard sat in his office and pulled up Tracy's employment file. $18 an hour, 40 hours a week. But the time logs showed something different. She'd been working 60, 70, sometimes more. And she'd never asked for overtime. Leonard sat back, his chest heavy. She was covering the night shifts, the early mornings, the emergencies, and he'd been paying her like she worked, 9 to 5. He opened his laptop and started typing an email to his accountant, then stopped. This wasn't about money. Not really. It was about the fact that Tracy had been holding his family together, and he'd treated her like she was invisible. The next morning, Leonard found her in the nursery, changing Michael's diaper. Gabriel was babbling in his crib, reaching for her. "Tracy," Leonard said. She looked up. "I want to give you a raise." Her face didn't change. "That's not necessary, Mr. Walker." "Yes, it is. I'm doing my job." "You're doing more than your job," he said, his voice firm. "You've been working nights, covering shifts no one else would cover, and I didn't even notice." Tracy finished fastening Michael's onesie, picked him up. "You were grieving," she said quietly. "I wasn't going to add to that." Leonard felt something twist in his chest. "You shouldn't have to carry that alone," he said. She looked at him then, really looked, and for the first time, he saw something in her eyes he hadn't noticed before. Exhaustion. "I'm not alone, Mr. Walker," she said softly. "I have them." She nodded toward the boys, and Leonard realized she wasn't just taking care of his sons. They were keeping her going too. "Still," he said, "I'm giving you the raise, and I'm hiring a night nurse who actually shows up." Tracy's shoulders dropped just slightly. Relief. "Thank you," she whispered. Leonard nodded, but as he walked away, he couldn't shake the feeling that money wasn't going to fix this. Because the problem wasn't what he was paying her. It was what he owed her, and he didn't know if he could ever repay it. Leonard couldn't let it go. The night nurse, the one Tracy said didn't show up. He needed to know how often, how long this had been happening. So he made a call. "Elite Home Care, how may I help you?" "This is Leonard Walker. I need to verify my billing for the past 2 months. There was typing on the other end. Then, "Of course, Mr. Walker, you're currently billed for 7 nights a week, 8 p.m. to 6 a.m., $4,000 per week." Leonard's jaw tightened. "And how many nights has the nurse actually been there?" A pause. Longer this time. "I'm sorry. Could you repeat that?" "How many nights," Leonard said slowly, "has someone from your agency been in my home?" More typing, then silence. "Sir, I'll need to pull the logs. Can I call you back?" "No, I'll wait." 5 minutes passed, then 10. Finally, the woman came back on the line. Her voice was quieter now, nervous. "Mr. Walker, according to our records." "The nurse has clocked in 11 times in the last 8 weeks. Leonard's hand tightened around the phone. 11. "Yes, sir, there were scheduling conflicts. We apologize for any." He hung up. 11 nights, out of 56. And Tracy had been there for the other 45. Without asking, without complaining, without a single extra dollar. Leonard sat at his desk, staring at nothing. His chest felt tight, his hands were shaking. He'd been paying $4,000 a week for a service that barely showed up. And the woman who'd been doing the work? He'd been paying her $72 a night, if she was lucky. He stood, grabbed his coat, and went looking for Tracy. He found her in the laundry room, folding tiny clothes with the same careful precision she did everything else. "Tracy." She looked up, saw his face, and straightened. "Mr. Walker?" "I called the agency." Her expression didn't change, but something in her eyes shifted. 11 nights, Leonard said, his voice low. "In 2 months, that's how many times the night nurse showed up." Tracy set down the shirt she was folding, said nothing. "You covered the rest, all of them, and you never said a word." "I didn't want to cause trouble," she said quietly. "Trouble?" Leonard's voice cracked. "Tracy, you've been working double shifts for weeks. You've been sleeping in a chair in their room. And he stopped, his throat tight. "I didn't even notice. You were dealing with enough." "That's not an excuse." He took a step closer. "You should have told me." "Would you have listened?" she asked. Not angry, just honest. And Leonard had no answer. Because she was right. A month ago, he wouldn't have. He would have told her to handle it, to call the agency, to do her job, and let him do his. But now? Now he couldn't imagine this house without her. "I'm sorry," he said, "for not seeing you, for not asking, for—" his voice broke, "for all of it." Tracy looked at him for a long moment. Then, softly, "They see me, Mr. Walker. Your boys. That's enough." But it wasn't. Not for Leonard. Not anymore. The knock came on a Saturday morning. Leonard was in the nursery with Tracy, watching her show him how to properly burp Gabriel. He was getting better at it, slower, more patient. Then the doorbell rang. Tracy glanced at him. "Are you expecting someone?" Leonard shook his head and handed Gabriel back to her. "I'll get it." When he opened the door, his stomach dropped. Diane. Caroline's sister stood in the hallway, perfectly dressed, her purse on her arm, her expression cold. "Diane, I didn't know you were coming." "I still have a key, Leonard." She stepped past him without waiting for an invitation. "We need to talk." Leonard closed the door, his chest tightening. Diane hadn't been here since the funeral, hadn't called, hadn't asked about the boys. And now she was here. She walked into the living room, her eyes scanning everything like she was taking inventory. Then she stopped. Tracy had just come out of the nursery with Gabriel in her arms. Diane's eyes went cold. "Who is this?" "This is Tracy," Leonard said carefully. "She helps with the boys." "Helps?" Diane's voice was sharp. "Is that what we're calling it now?" Tracy's face didn't change, but Leonard saw the way her grip tightened just slightly on Gabriel. "Diane." "I've been hearing things, Leonard." Diane turned to face him. "Things I didn't want to believe. That you've left my sister's children in the care of staff. Tracy is more than... She's the help." Diane's voice cut through the room like glass. "And you've been so buried in your grief and your guilt that you've let a stranger raise Gabriel and Michael." Leonard's hands clenched. "You don't know what you're talking about." "Don't I?" Diane pulled out her phone, swiped, and held it up. It was a photo. Tracy. At the kitchen sink, the boys in the water. Leonard's blood went cold. "Where did you get that?" "Does it matter?" Diane's smile was thin. "What matters is what it looks like, Leonard. You, absent. Your sons, being bathed by the maid in a kitchen sink. What do you think a judge would say?" The air left the room. "A judge?" Leonard's voice was barely a whisper. Diane lowered her phone. "I'm filing for custody. Caroline would be horrified by what you've become, and I won't let her sons suffer for it." Tracy stepped back, her face pale. She didn't say a word, just held Gabriel closer and turned toward the nursery. "Tracy, wait." But she was already gone. Diane straightened her purse. "You have 2 weeks to make this right, Leonard. Either you step up and be the father Caroline believed you could be, or I'll do what she can't. I'll protect them from you." She walked to the door, paused, looked back. "That woman, she's not family, and the sooner you remember that, the better." The door closed behind her. Leonard stood in the silence, his heart hammering, his mind racing. And for the first time since that night in the kitchen, he felt afraid. Not of losing his sons, of losing Tracy. Tracy didn't come out of the nursery for 20 minutes. Leonard stood in the hallway, his hand hovering near the door, not sure if he should knock, not sure what he'd say if he did. Finally, the door opened. Tracy stepped out, her face calm, her eyes unreadable. She didn't look at him. "They're asleep," she said quietly. "Tracy, I should go." "No, wait." Leonard moved in front of her, blocking the hallway. "Please, just talk to me." She stopped, looked down at her hands. "What do you want me to say, Mr. Walker?" "I don't know. Anything. Just don't shut me out." Tracy let out a slow breath. When she finally looked up, there was something in her eyes that made his chest ache. Resignation. "She's right," Tracy said softly. "What?" "Your sister-in-law. She's right. I'm not family. I'm the help. And no matter how much I love those boys, that's all I'll ever be to the world." "That's not true." "It is." Her voice didn't rise, but it cut deep. "And maybe it's better this way. Maybe they need more than I can give them." Leonard felt panic rising in his throat. "You can't leave." "I'm not leaving," Tracy said. "I'm just remembering my place." "Your place?" Leonard's voice cracked. "Tracy, your place is with them. You've been more of a parent to my sons than I have. You've been—" "What?" she interrupted, her eyes searching his. "What have I been, Mr. Walker? A nanny? A nurse? Someone you pay to care?" "No, you've been—" He stopped, the words catching. "You've been everything." The hallway went quiet. Tracy's eyes filled, but she didn't let the tears fall. She just stood there, holding herself together the way she always did. "Then why does it feel like I'm still invisible?" she whispered. Leonard had no answer. Because she was right. He'd defended her to Diane, he'd raised her pay, he'd started showing up. But he'd never told her what she actually meant, never said the words that mattered. "I see you," he said, his voice raw. "Tracy, I see you, and I don't know what I'd do without you. I don't know what they'd do without you." A tear slipped down her cheek. She wiped it away quickly. "Your sister-in-law is going to fight you," she said. "And when she does, she's going to use me. She's going to make it look like you chose me over them. And I can't," her voice broke, "I can't be the reason you lose your sons. You won't be. You don't know that." Leonard stepped closer. "Then we'll fight. Together." Tracy shook her head. "You can't fight the world for me, Mr. Walker. Watch me." She looked at him, really looked, and for a moment, something shifted between them, something unspoken, but real. Then she stepped back. "I need some air," she said quietly, and before Leonard could stop her, she grabbed her coat and walked out the door. Leonard stood alone in the hallway, his heart pounding, his hands shaking. He'd finally realized what Tracy meant to him. But he didn't know if it was already too late. Tracy came back 2 hours later. Leonard heard the door open and shot up from the couch. She walked in quietly, her coat damp from the rain he hadn't even noticed had started. "Tracy." "I'm okay," she said, her voice soft but steady. "I just needed to think." Leonard waited, his heart in his throat. Tracy set her coat on the hook, then turned to face him. "I love those boys, Mr. Walker, more than I thought I could love anything. But I need to know something." "Anything? If your sister-in-law takes this to court, if she makes this ugly, will you stand by me? Or will you do what's easier?" The question hung in the air like a blade. Leonard crossed the room slowly, stopping just in front of her. "I will stand by you," he said, his voice low and certain. "Not because it's easy, not because it looks good, but because it's right, because you've earned it. Because those boys need you, and because—" He stopped, his throat tight. "Because I need you too." Tracy's eyes searched his face, looking for doubt, looking for cracks. She didn't find any. "Okay," she whispered. "Okay?" She nodded. "Then, we do this together." Leonard felt something release in his chest. Relief, hope, something he hadn't felt in months. "Together," he repeated. The next morning, Leonard made a call. Not to his lawyers, not to his advisors. To Dr. Okafor, the boy's pediatrician. "Dr. Okafor, this is Leonard Walker. I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest." "Of course, Mr. Walker. What is it?" "If you had to testify about who's been caring for my sons these past 2 months, what would you say?" There was a pause. "I'd say," Dr. Okafor began carefully, "that someone has been doing an excellent job. Gabriel and Michael are thriving. Their weight is good. Their development is on track. Whoever's been caring for them knows what they're doing. And if I told you it was my housekeeper, a woman named Tracy Jackson?" Another pause. Then I'd say you're very lucky to have her." Leonard closed his eyes. "Thank you." That afternoon, he sat down at his desk and started writing. Not a legal defense, not a strategy. A letter. "To whom it may concern, my name is Leonard Walker, and I am the father of Gabriel and Michael Walker. For the past 7 months, I have been a ghost in my own home. I lost my wife, and in my grief, I lost myself. I hired people to do what I was too broken to do. I ran from the pain of being a father because I didn't think I could survive it. But someone stayed. Someone showed up every single day when I couldn't. Tracy Jackson didn't just care for my sons, she loved them. She healed them. She saw them when I was too blind to look. And now, someone wants to take my sons away because they believe I've failed them. Maybe I have, but if I have, it's not because of Tracy, it's in spite of her. She is not just the help, she is the heart of this family, and I will not let anyone, not the courts, not my family, not the world, diminish what she's done. If loving my sons and keeping them safe makes her unqualified, then I don't know what qualification means anymore." Leonard printed the letter, signed it, and set it on his desk. Then he walked to the nursery. Tracy was there, rocking Michael to sleep, humming softly. She looked up when he entered. "It's going to be okay," Leonard said, and for the first time, he believed it. 3 months later, the kitchen looked different. Not because Leonard had remodeled it, not because anything physical had changed, but because it didn't feel cold anymore. Leonard stood in the doorway, watching Tracy give the boys their evening bath. In the sink, chamomile water, just like that first night. But this time, he wasn't shocked. He was home. Gabriel splashed, laughing as water sprayed onto Tracy's shirt. She laughed too, wiping her face with the back of her hand. "You think that's funny?" she teased, kissing his wet cheek. Michael reached for her braid, tugging gently, and she shifted him in her arms with the kind of ease that only comes from love. Leonard stepped forward. "Need a hand?" Tracy looked up, smiled. "Took you long enough." He rolled up his sleeves and stepped beside her. She handed him a towel, and together they lifted the boys out, wrapping them in warmth. It was routine now, natural, like breathing. The custody case had been dismissed 2 weeks ago. Diane's lawyer had tried to paint Tracy as unqualified, inappropriate, a risk. But Leonard had stood in that courtroom and told the truth. Not a polished version, not a PR-approved statement. The truth. That he'd failed, that he'd been absent, that Tracy had saved his sons when he couldn't save himself. And the judge, a woman with kind eyes and a no-nonsense voice, had looked at Tracy, then at Leonard, then at the boys' medical records, their growth charts, the letters from Dr. Okafor. "Mr. Walker," she'd said, "it's clear your sons are loved, and it's clear you're learning what it means to be present. I see no reason to disrupt that." Diane had left the courtroom in silence. Leonard had turned to Tracy, and she'd smiled just a little. "We did it," she'd whispered. "You did it," he'd replied. Now, in the quiet of the evening, Leonard dried Gabriel's hair while Tracy handled Michael. The boys were calm, sleepy, content. "They're getting so big," Tracy said softly. "I know." Leonard looked at her. "Thank you for everything." Tracy shook her head. "You don't have to keep thanking me." "Yes, I do." His voice was firm but gentle. "Because you gave me something I didn't know I'd lost." "What's that?" "A family." Tracy's eyes glistened, but she smiled. Leonard picked up Gabriel, held him close, breathed in the scent of chamomile and baby shampoo. Michael reached for Tracy, and she pulled him against her chest, rocking gently. For a moment, they just stood there. 2 people, 2 boys, 1 kitchen. And Leonard realized this was it. Not perfection, not a fairy tale. Just love, real, messy, imperfect love. The kind that shows up, the kind that stays. Tracy looked at him, her voice soft. "You're a good dad, Leonard." His throat tightened. "I'm trying." That's all they need. Outside, the city hummed. Life went on. But here, in this kitchen, time slowed. Leonard looked at his sons, healthy, happy, loved. He looked at Tracy, the woman who'd held his family together when he couldn't. And he thought about that first night. The shock, the confusion, the green water in the sink. He'd thought it was chaos. But it was grace. God had been working all along, in the quiet, in the unseen moments, through hands that served without asking for anything in return. Leonard had been blind. But now, finally, he could see. "Same time tomorrow?" Tracy asked, a smile tugging at her lips. Leonard nodded, his voice thick with emotion. "Same time, every day." Because this was where love lived. Not in grand gestures or perfect plans, but in showing up, in chamomile water and midnight feedings, in tired eyes and patient hands, in choosing every single day to stay. And as Leonard carried his sons to bed, Tracy beside him, he whispered a prayer he hadn't prayed in months. Thank you for the shock that woke him up, for the woman who never gave up, for the love he almost missed. The kitchen light flickered off behind them, but the warmth remained. And it always would,